On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla announced version 4 supercharging cabinets that will allow Cybertrucks to supercharge at double the peak rate of the rest of the Tesla fleet. Plus, Cybertruck's lead engineer is honored by Time magazine, NHTSA has a beef with Tesla over the company's social media posts, and more. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you, as always, for your weekly dose of Tesla news, discussion, and analysis. It's episode 485, releasing on November 17th, 2024. I've got two pooped pups behind me after a nice long walk right before I started recording this podcast. I do want to start this episode with a heartfelt message, if you'll just give me a moment. Longtime Ride the Lightning listener Greg, who's a Tesla fan, Tesla owner, and more importantly, a husband and father of 4, who I've actually had the pleasure of meeting up with in person a couple of times when he's been down in San Francisco, and I can confirm that this guy, he's a genuinely good and kind person. The reason I bring him up is because he and his family lost their home in the mountain fire that occurred in Southern California earlier this month. His house is literally gone. And now he's got to fight with his insurance company and literally rebuild his home. Not figuratively, literally rebuild it. And unfortunately, 2 other families immediately adjacent to them also lost their homes. Now, thankfully, everybody's okay. And Greg did tell me that, yes, they did get their Tesla out. I actually presume that was probably how they got away from the fire after they noticed that there was going to be nothing that they could do about it. But everything else is gone. So if you have a moment, Greg and the other 2 families have set up a website where you can donate to them directly or donate Target gift cards, etc. If you'd like to take a look at that and maybe consider a donation, the website is oldcoachfam.com, oldcoachfam.com. And on that website, you'll even find a link to a YouTube video of an ABC News report that the local affiliate did on this fire that features Greg and his family in the segment and unfortunately shows you the devastation that this fire caused. So I will do my best to remember to put that link in the episode description after I finish recording this as well. But Greg, I wish you and your family and your neighbors all the best as you set about rebuilding your home. Getting on to Tesla news this week, there is, as usual, plenty to talk about. Tesla's official Gigafactories account posted this week to mark the 5-year anniversary of the announcement of Giga Berlin. Not the opening of Giga Berlin, but they decided to mark the announcement of that, which I think is interesting that they're citing the occasion before a shovel ever hit the dirt. And the reason that I think that's interesting is because it means the actual building has been in operation for a lot less than that, and they've accomplished a lot. In the 5 years since that announcement, Tesla provided some statistics on what exactly they've accomplished, and I'm going to read them to you now, because this is pretty darn cool what they've managed to do over there at Giga Berlin already. They've produced over 400,000 Model Y. They've made over 500,000 drive units. They've recycled over 90% of their process wastewater. They've produced 6.9 gigawatt hours of solar energy, courtesy of the panels on the roof of the factory, which Tesla says is enough to power over 1,700 households per year. They've delivered Model Ys that have been built there to 37 countries. Their shuttle buses and their recently opened Giga Train, which I had mentioned on the podcast here when they opened that not too long ago, have made over 270,000 trips. They've planted over 2 million trees at the site, and they've hired over 12,000 people. Those are some seriously impressive statistics. So congratulations to the entire Giga Berlin team, past and present. I mean, boy, that place has really done a ton of good for not just the company, but for the region as well. So here's to their next step as they begin their expansion, which you may recall I talked about not too long ago and predicted, not exactly in some genius way, it's pretty obvious, but I think they're going to be building the Model 2.5 vehicle line there as their next big thing. And next up this week, another quick congrats goes out to the Tesla Energy team at Giga Nevada, who achieved the milestone this past week of building 1,000 Powerwalls in a single day. That is pretty cool. And I have to say, I'm very, very grateful to have one of those Powerwalls in our house. It is, thankfully, knock on wood here, I have not really needed it. I think the longest outage we've had, despite the fact that our local utility provider, who I could do a whole podcast about them, about, I would say if you, the local utility company here, if you polled Bay Area residents, would probably have a lower approval rating than any politician from either party that you could possibly throw at it. But anyway, not to get down that rabbit hole, but I have actually been fortunate that in the few years I've had the Powerwall, I haven't had any serious outages, but not only is it there just in case, but it's also assisting me every single day by keeping me from using any peak grid energy, which is saving me money and saving stress on the grid as well, because of course that Powerwall charges up during the overnight period when it's all off peak, and if it needs to, it'll use solar, but most of the time our solar generated energy is going into the car and into the house. But I'm so grateful to have that Powerwall there to both save me money day by day and back me up just in case we ever need a backup. I will say, I did raise one question in my own mind that I wish I could get answered by Tesla when I saw this little story, and that is, I wonder what their target run rate is. Like, do they want to scale up to more than 1,000 Powerwalls a day, or have they kind of hit right where they want to be? It's a bummer we don't really get any public numbers about Powerwall. It's generally all just lumped in with the energy storage figures that we get each quarter. So it'd be nice to have a more detailed breakdown of Powerwall specifically on a quarter-by-quarter basis. Next up, a little bit of good news for any of you shopping for a new Tesla this fourth quarter here before the holidays, before the end of the year. There is a new incentive that's been added for the stretch run of 2024, and I saw this courtesy of Tesla tipster Sawyer Merritt. You get 3 free months of Supercharging and 3 free months of FSD supervised if you purchase a new inventory vehicle in North America that gets delivered by the end of this year. Everything is eligible, S3, XY, and Cybertruck. So anything is eligible if you decide to take an take an inventory order rather than custom configuring your own car. I'll mention here real quick that on that note, the referral program is back. You can also get $500 off of a 3 or Y or $1,000 off of an SX or Cybertruck by using a referral link. If you'd like to use mine, just make sure you're using somebody's. But if you'd like to use mine, order through this link. It's ts.la/Ryan73014. It'll be in the episode description as well. That'll take you to a landing page on the Tesla website where you can either click inventory if you want to take advantage of that 3 free months of Supercharging and 3 free months of FSD supervised, or click any of the other 5 Teslas to custom configure your own. And you should see it'll pop up. It'll say Ryan's referral applied, and you'll see it on the Design Studio page as well. It'll be pretty clear if indeed you've entered it correctly and you've landed in the right place. So check that out if that is of interest to any of you. A quick note about Patreon before I continue. If you'd like to support the podcast, you enjoy this thing every single week, as I hope you do, and you'd like to support me, I'd be humbled and grateful. if you choose to do that. Patreon is the way to do that. And if you jump at that most popular tier, the $10 per month tier, you'll get an ad-free episode every week. You'll get early access to that episode every week. And you'll get access to that weekly lightning round bonus mini episode. This week's was about the top 5 paint colors that I think Tesla needs to introduce. Yes, they have added one more. We finally have more than 5. We've got 6, no matter which Tesla you're choosing, other than Cybertruck, obviously. But I think we need more. 6 is still not enough. So I talk about 5 paint colors I think Tesla should introduce. And if you join at any of the Patreon tiers, you'll still get early access to each week's episode and ad-free episodes as well. It's if you jump to that $10 per month tier or higher, you'll also get those weekly lightning round bonus mini episodes. There are 121 of them now. There are quite a few up there. So check those out if you'd like to support the podcast. I'll also note that if you do choose to support the podcast on Patreon, just make sure you don't sign up for the Patreon through the Patreon iOS app. Sign up any other way on your desktop, mobile device, just not the iOS Patreon app, because unfortunately there's a new Apple Store app fee policy in place where that App Store fee gets passed on to you. So just don't sign up there. Sign up anywhere else. The easy way is just go to the website, patreon.com/Tesla podcast, and that will make it easy. Don't forget as well, there's a 10% discount if you choose to do the annual pledge. Just pledging once for an entire year of support, I'll give you a 10% discount as a thank you on that. By the way, as a random aside, before I continue with the headline story this week and the rest of the news, the funniest product to ever crash the Tesla website, or at least the shop website specifically, not the entire Tesla website. You can still order a car. But today, Tesla put up Tesla bot action figures, Optimus action figures. They're 1/10 scale. They have 40 individual parts, 20 points of articulation. It comes with the a little cyber hammer you can put in its hand, along with a charging stand. Of course, it doesn't actually charge, but that's, I guess, what it'll look like, what the charging stand will look like when they sell it to people. And it's $40, which is not cheap for a little action figure, but everybody went so nuts for it today that still many, many hours later, as I'm sitting here recording the podcast, it is breaking the shop website, because right before I went to record, I went to order something for my Model 3 that I just had on my mind. I was like, I should just order this before it sells out over the holidays. And I put it in the cart and just can't get to checkout. So I go poke my head around the Tesla community, and yeah, no, it's not just me. It's everybody is experiencing this. The shop has been effectively brought down by the popularity of the Tesla bot action figure, which now as I go check it, it's showing out of stock. So they sold out. I would say if that sounds like a cool holiday gift, either for yourself or for another Tesla person in your life, probably keep a close eye on the website, because there's a decent chance that Tesla will restock that prior to the holidays. You know, it's November 15th as I record this, so there's still time. We're not even to Black Friday yet. So if that sounds good, or at least if you just want to even take a look at it, just go to shop.tesla.com. And if you click on lifestyle, you'll find it right away, the lifestyle tab up top. But I just got a little bit of a chuckle out of the fact that an Optimus action figure has crippled the online Tesla shop today. All right, our headline story this week, and this is all good. This is so cool. The Supercharging team at Tesla is about to super duper charge your Cybertruck, either if you're a Cybertruck owner now or if you plan to be one. This comes courtesy of the official Tesla charging account on X, who writes, "Supercharging has come a long way. Our first opening in 2012 started with charging speeds of just 90 kilowatts. Since then, our engineering teams have continuously been upgrading our supercharger equipment. In 2023, we launched our V4 Post, which made improvements to the charging experience for all EVs. Today, we're announcing the V4 Cabinet, capable of delivering up to 500 kilowatts for cars and 1.2 megawatts for Tesla Semi. Faster charging. It supports 400 volt to 1000 volt vehicle architectures, including 30% faster charging for the aforementioned Cybertruck. Sexy vehicles, S3XY, enjoy 250 kilowatt charge rates they already experience on the V3 Cabinet, charging up to 200 miles in 15 minutes. The new V4 Cabinet will also include faster deployments. Tesla says the V4 Cabinet powers 8 posts, double the stalls per cabinet. It also has a lower footprint and complexity, which means more sites coming online faster. And it includes next-generation hardware, cutting-edge power electronics designed to be the most reliable on the planet, with 3 times power density, enabling higher throughput with lower costs. And the big question that they answer to conclude, our first sites with V4 cabinets are going into permitting now. The first openings will be in 2025. Max de Zeger, Max, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Max from the Tesla charging team elaborated on this a bit in a post on his X account, saying, quote, "The posts can peak up to 500 kilowatts for cars, but we need less than 1 megawatt across 8 posts to deliver maximum power to cars 99% of the time. No more DC bus bar between cabinets." It's a little inside baseball talk, I guess, because I have no idea what he means, but I know it's some sort of electronic thing. He says power comes from a single V4 cabinet to 8 stalls. It's easier to install, cheaper, and more reliable. Even some of the small incremental improvements matter. V4 cabinet has a 2% efficiency improvement. Supercharges already deliver over 5 terawatt hours per year, meaning 100 gigawatt hours per year in waste heat that can be saved. Boy, that puts it into perspective very quickly. Now, first, to clarify, because this was one of my first thoughts as well, they say cars, but it is only the Cybertruck, for now, that's going to support 500 kilowatt supercharging speeds. And then, of course, any future 800 volt or higher architecture vehicles that Tesla might make. So for now, just Cybertruck will be able to take full advantage of this. SX3 and Y, as you heard there, will remain capped at 250 kilowatts, which is what the V3 superchargers already do for our cars. But that important note aside, how awesome is this? This is one of the coolest engineering achievements that I have heard out of Tesla in a while. And that's saying something, because this is a company that's constantly making awesome achievements in the world of engineering. While the rest of the EV industry throws around 350 kilowatt charging, and by the way, that's, I don't mean to throw shade here, but let's be real. 350, that's if you can find an Electrify America charger that A, supports 350, and B, works when you get there and plug into it. So 350 technically exists, but Tesla will move to 500 kilowatts, or as Tesla, if you want to look at this another way, Tesla showed they had a little hype video, little montage, like South Park. I need a montage, and they had one. A little montage video where in one of the frames, little like 2-second clip, you can see a Cybertruck plugged in and charging, and you see it reach and cross 1,300 miles per hour of juice. You see it hit 500 kilowatts, which translates to slightly over 1,300 miles of range per hour. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, will the Model 2.5 cars be able to do this? How about the Juniper Model Y refresh next year? Is that going to be able to do this? Hit that 500 kilowatts? My guess, and I'm certainly not a Tesla engineer, but my guess is going to be no on both counts there, though I certainly hope I'm wrong. Now, the reason that I say that about, let me start with Juniper. So the Model Y refresh, the reason that I am doubtful that the Juniper is going to be able to hit 500 kilowatts is because Juniper is likely to use the same battery, same architecture that the existing Model Y uses. The reason I say that is because the 3 Fresh, aka the Highland, carries over the old Model 3's battery and architecture. So that's my reasoning there. And for the Model 2.5 cars, due to come out sometime in 2025, around the middle of 2025, if Tesla hits their goal, those cars are going to have smaller batteries, smaller battery packs, I should say. And those packs are likely to be LFP packs. So if either of those is true, and especially if both of those are true, that's 2 strikes against having an 800-volt architecture in those cars. But I will say, if you're looking at one future Tesla, besides the Tesla Semi, of course, that's 1.2 megawatts of peak charging on the V4 cabinet. But if you want to look for one future Tesla for sure that should support this and be able to hit 500 kilowatts peak supercharging, it's the next generation Roadster, if that car ever gets made. But that car should support this because it's likely to have a very big battery pack. Whether or not it has the 200 kilowatt hour battery pack that Tesla originally promised remains to be seen, because 200 kilowatt hours, is going to weigh a lot. And on a supercar, you're going to want less weight. I mean, for a little bit of context, not that Tesla is beholden to what other people in the industry are doing. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Tesla doesn't look at all and take any notes from what anybody else is doing, and usually that's the best move for Tesla. But the Rimac Nevera, that car has I believe it's 120 kilowatt hour pack in that car. And then I just saw a Doug DeMuro video. He did a review of the Pininfarina Battista, which is a EV supercar, hypercar even. It's over $2 million, just like the Nevera. And it is technically based off of the Nevera, but that car also has it's like it's in the low 100s in terms of kilowatt hour, in terms of pack size. And the review said, Doug said it's the Battista is like 4,000 pounds, and the rest of the car is all carbon fiber, just as I expect the next Roadster to be. Point is, the next Roadster probably still going to have a pretty big pack, even if it's not 200 kilowatt hours, but especially if it's 200 kilowatt hours, which would make it, by the way, a significantly larger battery pack than even the Cybertruck. It means that the next-gen Roadster is almost certainly going to have 800-volt or higher architecture and be able to take advantage of this 500 kilowatt supercharging. And really, the Roadster, being the Halo car, if and when it arrives, is going to have all the latest and greatest technology in it. I mean, Elon's already confirmed steer-by-wire will go in it, whatever the latest battery cell technology is. So that car is almost certainly going to support this. But S and X, unfortunately, do not, at least the current incarnations of the S and the X. And given, as I've talked about on the podcast after we got the Q3 production and delivery numbers, S and X production and delivery is trending in the wrong direction. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if in the coming, maybe not in 2025, because Tesla's focus is going to be on the Model 2.5s, but maybe 26, maybe in 2-3 years tops from now, I could absolutely see Tesla completely like completely from the ground up, redesigning the S and the X. Total new look inside and out, steer-by-wire, all the latest and greatest stuff. That would not surprise me, but for now, the existing S and X that use the 18650 cells from Panasonic, they are capped at that 250 kilowatts that the V3 cabinets do, same as the Model 3 and the Model Y are as well. But still, to just get myself back on track here, this accomplishment, being able to very soon, as soon as the first station opens sometime in 2025, being able to plug a Cybertruck that might be in your garage right now into a new V4 cabinet, new V4 supercharger with the V4 cabinet, and being able to go from 10 to 80% state of charge in about 20 minutes in your Cybertruck, boy, is that a huge boon to road tripping in a Cybertruck. Like, I've already heard such great things from current Cybertruck owners, especially since FSD was added to the Cybertruck, about how great a vehicle it is for road tripping. It's just super comfortable. It's a great road tripping car, according to a lot of the owners. And this V4 supercharger is only going to make road tripping even better in the Cybertruck. So, love it. Can't wait for those first V4 cabinets to come online sometime next year. All right, while we're talking about the Cybertruck, its lead engineer has been recognized by Time magazine, which is pretty cool. In the Time 100 list of most influential climate leaders in business, Cybertruck's lead engineer, Wes Morrill, was named as one of the 20 people in the Catalysts list out of the greater 100. They divided it into different categories of folks. Wes is recognized in the list of Catalysts. Here's an excerpt from the Time magazine write-up. Morrill's job is to bring Tesla CEO Elon Musk's lofty ambitions to life. In this case, Musk wanted a Blade Runner-inspired pickup of the future that would drive better than a sports car and have more utility than a truck. Quote, "These very high-level goals are what drove the whole design of the Cybertruck," Morrill says. And he continues, "At Tesla, the goal is not to put all the other EVs out of business and get all the EV market share. The goal is always to convert more internal combustion vehicles to EV. Getting butts in seats in a truck that can meet the expectations of truck drivers is a big motivating factor in converting more of the market." End quote. Wes, for his part, very humbly acknowledged the honor on X when somebody in the Tesla community tagged him and recognized him and called it out. And Wes said, quote, "The recognition actually goes to the team of amazing folks who contributed to overcoming all the challenges to bring Cybertruck to life. I'm grateful every day for the opportunity to work alongside them and humbled to be the face that Time selected to represent the team." Congratulations, Wes. Congratulations to the entire Cybertruck team. That is really, really cool. It's nice to see other people besides the very visible CEO who, yeah, hey, he deserves his flowers too for what he's done with this company. But it's really cool to see people at the vehicle team level, like Wes, get recognized in something as cool as a entire business spanning, it's not just the car industry thing, it's the entire world of business and industry that Wes was recognized in here. So that is really, really cool. One more Cybertruck thing to mention, and this one's not as good a news as Wes getting recognized, but I'm going to pass it along regardless because that's what I do here. Tesla appears to have officially ended its in-house Cybertruck wrap service. I saw this posted on Drive Tesla Canada, who writes, "This move comes just 2 months after the automaker cut down the number of color options for Cybertruck wraps, reducing choices from 11 colors to just 3. Although the end of this service limits personalization options for Cybertruck owners, Tesla continues to offer its wrap service for the Model 3 and Model Y. So thank you to Drive Tesla Canada for flagging that one to me. And I have to say that, honestly, I'm not surprised here. It most certainly came down to price, because what Tesla was charging for their in-house Cybertruck wraps was $6,500. And quite frankly, that's just a good bit more money than what a good, reputable, professional detailer would do it for in just about anywhere in the US. I mean, even here in the San Francisco Bay Area, it costs more. I mean, detailing, because everything's more expensive here, so the hourly rate of a professional detailer is more. But you can get a great wrap done at a great detailer for less than $6,500, even here in my neck of the woods. So I'm not super surprised that Tesla has folded up shop on this particular part of this particular service anyway. And it may be the fact, too, that Tesla, and I'm not trying to blame them here at all, but it's possible that Tesla, setting even the price aside, that they didn't do a great job of messaging the availability of this to Cybertruck owners. But whether or not that was the case, at the end of the day, money talks, right? Money talks, and that is no doubt the primary driving factor behind the lack of demand, the lack of interest in these in-house wrap options. But that said, I'm glad that Tesla tried it. It was nice that they offered it, and in the beginning, they also offered a whole bunch of options. And it's, as I say all the time, in fact, I was just talking about it earlier in the podcast when I was mentioning this week's Lightning Round mini episode on Patreon. I always want Tesla to offer more options. They are a company that is, generally speaking, they try to avoid offering more options, but they did for a while there on Cybertruck customization. And sadly, their bountiful offering of choice was not received well enough by the community to sort of to tell Tesla, yes, we like having more choices for things. Not on this one, but I'm still glad that they gave it a try. So if you are picking up a Cybertruck in the coming weeks, coming months, you're going to want to find a reputable detailer in your area if you are interested in having it wrapped. And I get asked this from time to time on email or what have you. The best way to find a reputable detailer is to check with your local Tesla community, meaning your region. Like in my case, I'm part of the Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley Club, and they have shops that they partner with sort of officially, but you can also get just personal recommendations for shops. I mean, it's the same thing I do when I mention Immaculate Reflections, right? Like, they've done such a great job on my car and helping me keep my car looking amazing. So start with your local Tesla Owners Club. And another good way to find a good detailing shop, too, is to go on the Tesla Motors Club forums. And if you scroll down a bit, they have regional sub-forums. So, like, if you live in Arizona or you live in Texas, you can click on your region, and then you can search the thread, see if anybody else has already made a thread about it, and you can check that out, see if anybody's made recommendations. Or if that post doesn't exist yet, you can just create an account and go ahead and make a post, and you'll get recommendations from owners in that region who can give you a good recommendation for a detailer to wrap your Cybertruck. All right. Also on the subject of Cybertruck, we're not quite done talking about it yet. If you're still interested in a Foundation Series Cybertruck, even though Foundation Series has officially come to an end, now that we know that when you add up all the accessories that are included with Foundation Series, it's pretty darn close to the same price as buying a general production Cybertruck and buying all those accessories separately. So, if you still want a Foundation Series Cybertruck, there might still be, by the time you hear this, a handful of them available. And they're available in inventory. So, I presume that these are the final Foundation Series builds. So whatever, I doubt there's a plaque commemorating the last one in any of them in the same way. And the reason I mention that, like, why would you even, what? The final Roadsters ever made, the original Roadster, the final 5 have a cool little plaque noting them, commemorating them as one of the final 5. Anyway, there's no plaque in the last Foundation Series Cybertrucks, at least that I'm aware of, but if you do want one, if the Foundation Series sounds good to you, you want that Foundation Series badging, you want that accessory bundle, you want that the free lifetime premium connectivity that comes with it, you can try to find one near you at tesla.com/inventory. Although, better yet, use my referral link instead, or somebody else's referral link, and get $1,000 off that Foundation Series Cybertruck. And obviously, these trucks are all available for immediate delivery since they've all already been made. In fact, I can say, when I took a look at that page while making my notes for the podcast this week, there weren't any available in my area, but your region may vary. So if this sounds the slightest bit of interest, I would advise jumping on it quickly. Do not hesitate. But if you don't get the last of the Foundation Series, at least you know you're not really missing out by getting a general production Cybertruck. There's only 2 things that you'd actually be missing out on. The Foundation Series badging on the inside and outside of the truck, and that aforementioned lifetime premium connectivity. Before I continue with the rest of this week's Tesla news, I wanted to welcome back a familiar friend of the podcast, Climate Exchange, who asks, do you want to win any Tesla configured however you want, and yes, that includes the Cybertruck, for just $250? And do you want to have that raffle entry go to a great cause as well? Of course you do. The Climate Exchange raffle, which all of you helped raise money for last year, is back for its 9th year, and proceeds benefit a small nonprofit doing really important work for our planet by working hard to help states pass climate policies. Even better, if you win the raffle, Climate Exchange also pays all of the fees and taxes on the car, meaning that you get your dream Tesla with 0 out-of-pocket cost. This is the most bang for your buck of any EV raffle on the internet, and here's further proof of that. There's also an early bird drawing of $10,000 cash being held on January 3rd, 2025, and even better, even if you win that early bird raffle, you're still eligible for the grand prize drawing on February 28th. And even better than that, Climate Exchange is giving away 2 additional cash prizes, $12,500 for their second place winner and $7,500 for their third place winner during their February drawing. Last year's winner, if you're curious, picked out a red Model X Plaid, fully customized with a steering yoke and FSD, and he's living his best life driving it down in Florida. Tickets for this have sold out early just about every year, so don't wait. Get yours today. Go to carbonraffle.org/RTL to get your tickets and start daydreaming about how you'll configure your dream Tesla. Or you can click on the link in the episode description. That's carbonraffle.org/RTL. And this week's Ride the Lightning continues to also be brought to you in part by my friends at Accelerate Auto. If you're thinking about an extended warranty coverage plan for your Tesla, I do genuinely and wholeheartedly recommend Accelerate Auto and their XCare plan. It goes well above and beyond what Tesla's official 2-year, $25,000 fixed extended warranty plan goes and does, because the XCare plan can go up to 10 years and up to 125,000 miles, or anywhere in between. I've got a 3-year, 40,000-mile extended warranty plan on my Model 3 Performance, so don't miss out on that. And there's a $100 discount code for any policy purchase that you might make for listeners of Ride the Lightning. All you have to do is enter the discount code LIGHTNING to get that discount. The website to go to is accelerateauto.com/xcare. That's spelled XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. The The link for that is also in the description, so check that out. Accelerate Auto, thank you to my friends at XCare for continuing to offer that discount to the Ride the Lightning audience. All right. I still got a couple more stories. There's more to talk about this week than I thought. We've had another Model Y Juniper sighting out in the wild, but the reason that this one is a little bit more noteworthy is that people noticed something specifically interesting about this one. Another tip of the cap goes to Drive Tesla Canada, who they themselves sourced it from the Tesla Lounge subreddit, which is not one I frequent. I might have to start stopping by there more often. Drive Tesla Canada writes, a camouflaged Model Y refresh was spotted in California, and it has a front bumper camera. And sure enough, this is me talking now, not Drive Tesla Canada, but sure enough, you can see their phone footage of from the subreddit there, of a black refreshed Model Y, again, aka Project Juniper, driving by. And as usual, it's got a big old bra covering the front of it and another big old bra covering the back so that you can't see the new design elements, you can't see the new front end, you can't see the new back end. But the air intake on the bottom of the front end is, of course, exposed because it needs to be for the proper operating efficiency of the car. And at the right moment in that little video, you can see a front bumper camera on there. Now, I wanted to mention this story this week in order to try to not let anticipation get out of hand on this. And what I really mean by that is this is probably not going to make it to production, that front bumper camera. Because remember that the 3 Fresh, aka the Highland, that originally had a front bumper camera visible in the render on the design studio when it first went up for sale, before the community pointed it out, and then Tesla very quickly and quietly removed it from that rendered image in the design studio. The same thing is likely to be the case here as well. I would expect that front bumper camera is probably only there for calibration of it is a new shape, it is a slightly new front end, right? So it's probably just there for calibration and or testing of some kind. Is it possible that the production car that you'll all be able to buy next year has a front bumper camera on it? Yeah, it's definitely possible. I can't rule it out. Cybertruck, of course, has it. The Cybercab prototypes have it too. But those, in the case of the Cybercab specifically, the Cybercab's going to be running on AI 5 and have no inputs at all. So that front bumper camera might very well be necessary, like absolutely necessary on the Cybercab. But I think for the imminent Model Y refresh, we have to presume that the final car isn't going to have that extra camera. At least that's what history tells us, right? And another thing history tells us is that Tesla is more likely to delete parts than add them. So those two things together have me pessimistic that this is going to actually make it to production. So if you start hearing buzz about this from your Tesla friends or from anywhere else, the reason I bring it up on this podcast now is just to try and caution you not to get too fired up about it, because I don't want people to get their hopes way up only to be let down. I would rather get you excited about things on this podcast rather than be the guy trying to kind of temper expectations, but I could see how this specifically, because so many of you are excited about the Juniper, I could see how the hype for this could really get out of hand if it's left unchecked. So I feel like I'm just doing a little bit of journalistic due diligence on this one to try and keep everybody's expectations a little more grounded. Now, speaking of the Juniper, I made that the subject of this week's Patreon poll. I put up a poll question for everybody to vote on every week. Usually that question goes up on Tuesday nights at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And unlike the rest of the Patreon stuff, The Patreon poll is free for anybody to stop by and vote in. You do not have to be backing me or supporting me on Patreon. You can just stop on by and vote in the poll each week, as over 250 of you did this week. The question was, what does the Juniper need to have to get you to buy one? And I listed a bunch of options. 23% of you said that you're not interested in the Model Y. That's okay. So of the remaining 77% of the votes, the leading vote getter at 22% was more range. Range is always king, right? Range is undefeated in terms of nobody ever wants less range. So it's more range, number one answer. Number two answer, not too far behind at 17%. And I like that this was the second most popular answer. So 17% of those of you that responded to the poll voted for a unique design, meaning that it doesn't look exactly like the new Model 3, except taller, that it has its own unique design. Now, the good news there is that from that person that probably got fired for lifting up the back cover of a Juniper that was parked somewhere and taking a picture of the back end of it that showed a light bar going across the tail end, we can be reasonably confident that it is going to have a unique design, that it's not just going to look like a taller new Model 3. And then rounding out the rest of the poll, 12% of you said steer-by-wire. Another 12% of you said, I want it no matter what. And then it was single-digit responses for turn signal and gear selector stalks, and for a front bumper camera, and just 2% of you said you wanted more performance. So that's not what Model Y buyers are most interested in, clearly. Performance is not at the top of the list. It's nice to have, but it's clearly not the thing that it needs to have to get you to buy one. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to vote in this week's Patreon poll. A lot of good responses in the comments as well. I'm going to shout out one of them real quick here before I move on. Mark Richards. Mark included his comment was something that I probably should have included as one of the choices in the poll, and that's air suspension. Now, I will say I'm not optimistic that an air suspension is going to go on the Juniper, but it should have been. I definitely should have included that as one of the choices. All right, the last news story that I have for you on this week's podcast is this one. NHTSA has alleged that Tesla's social media posts conflict with FSD's actual capabilities. I saw this on Teslarati, who wrote, Tesla's social media posts are becoming an area of concern, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which said the automaker's accounts have shared things that, quote, conflict with its stated messaging that the driver is to maintain continued control over the dynamic driving task, end quote. The email that states this was written by the NHTSA's Gregory Magno. Sorry, I almost said Mango. Poor guy's probably gotten that mistake a lot. Gregory Magno, back in May, and it was just made public earlier this week. Magno writes that Tesla's social media accounts, specifically mentioning the one on X, have, quote, reposted or endorsed postings that exhibit disengaged driver behavior, end quote. Magno said in the letter that people who see the videos Tesla shares could be under the impression that they will buy a vehicle with full self-driving capability. And if I'm being honest, I do see where NHTSA is coming from here. I honestly do. I follow Tesla on X and on Instagram, and I think that Tesla does a great job of showing off what the cars are capable of. However, I would respectfully disagree with NHTSA that Tesla is showing anything that's out of bounds in terms of safety or misleading a customer into thinking that the car can do something that it can't. I also recognize, though, that this complaint was made back in May, which was before hands-free FSD supervised was a thing. Now, we also don't know if Tesla got to see and respond to this complaint back when it was originally filed in May. All we know is that we, the public, are only just now seeing it for the first time. But what I could see coming out of this as a possible compromise, should NHTSA press Tesla further on this, is maybe for Tesla to start putting little fine print text at the bottom of their social media videos that clarify everything that, in fairness to Tesla, is already pretty darn clear elsewhere on their website, namely that it's not a true full self-driving system and that the driver has to be attentive and prepared to take over at any time. So maybe that's a way that Tesla can help satiate NHTSA, never mind that the majority of people reading social media are doing so on phones, and so putting teeny tiny fine print text on a video on social is almost certainly going to be impossible to read on a mobile device, but that's not for me to have to figure out. But that's the best suggestion I can come up with if NHTSA presses the issue on this any further. All right, that's everything I've got for you in another busy week of Tesla news. But stick with me, I've got your Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls coming up next.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Time for your questions and calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline. If you'd like to potentially be featured on the podcast, if you've got a Tesla question, comment, or discussion topic that you'd like to bring up here on the podcast, this is the place to do it. And there are two easy ways to call in. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many people each week as possible, and then email that file to me at my Tesla Podcast email address, which is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less question and call in and leave a message anytime, day or night, on the Ride the Lightning hotline. That toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. First up this week is Jim from Minnesota with an improvement suggestion. I won't even call it a feature suggestion. It's an improvement suggestion for Tesla. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Ryan. This is Jim calling from Edina, Minnesota with an improvement suggestion. I have a low ceiling in my garage, and one of the things I love about my Model Y is that I can set the opening height on the tailgate so that it never bangs into the ceiling. You know, when I'm not at home, though, I have to push it open to full height. So what I was thinking was, just like the car knows how to auto lock the doors when it's in my garage, why couldn't it do the same for different tailgate opening heights? Have it open when the full height, is reached when I'm not at home. Now, this is a small problem, obviously, but in the grand scheme of things, but it could be one of those nice touches that Tesla is known for. Thanks for your work. Have a good one.
Jim, don't sell yourself short here. I don't think it's a small problem at all. In fact, I think you've made a fantastic suggestion. I can tell you, I have seen many Model Ys out on San Francisco Bay Area roads that have dents in the same spot on the rear liftgate. In the middle of it, below the license plate, where the bodywork sticks out the furthest before it kind of curves back in for the license plate portion. Now, for a while, I would see this and it baffled me. I'm like, why am I seeing this on so many Model Ys, all in the same location on the car? And then one day, I know this probably should have happened quicker, so it should have probably occurred to me pretty quickly, but eventually it occurred to me after I saw enough of these, I was like, oh, I think I know why. It's the power lift gates are slamming into something because the owners probably aren't expecting it to whack anything up above, like in a garage or parking garage or something, but it happens. And so I think your idea of GPS tagging the desired height of the tailgate in various locations, meaning if you want it to go up all the way in most places, but say in your own garage, you needed to stop shorter, and in your office garage, you needed to stop even shorter than that. It would be super cool if it could do that. And I hope Tesla will do it. I mean, they do it with the mirrors. They do it with the air suspension for Teslas that have air suspensions. Tesla has this technology. They have this capability, and I'd love to see them do it. Now, I know that you can set it, basically if the rear liftgate's going up and you just push the button, it'll stop it. And I think, now don't quote me on this because I don't own a Tesla with a power rear liftgate. I'm going off of an old memory of the Model S here, my cousin Pat's Model S. But I believe if you hold the button in at the desired location you want, it will set that as the max height for it. But to the best of my knowledge, it does not GPS tag this so that it'll go up to different heights in various locations. So I agree, Jim. This would be something that would be really awesome for Tesla to add, if at all possible. Next up, here's Eric from Chicago with some FSD supervised feedback.
Hey there, Ryan. This is Eric from Chicago suburbs. Just wanted to call in with some feedback from my perspective on using FSD. So I've never actually purchased FSD, but I've always enjoyed using it whenever I had a loaner vehicle or one of the free trials rolled out. I just want to say that this free trial that I'm using now that they gave out after the Wii Robot event, I really think it's leaps and bounds better than last time I used it. I mean, I rarely, if ever, have to disengage. The only thing I do on a daily basis is usually just give the accelerator pedal a tap to kind of give it some encouragement if it's being a little too timid. But anyway, feature request. I think it would be really helpful if, you know, in two scenarios, if you're using FSD with navigation, but you want to take a slightly different route than the car's suggesting, or if you're just using FSD without putting a destination in. Like, for example, if you want to go to the grocery store across town, but, you know, you just have a specific route, you know, on some back streets you'd like to take versus getting on the state highway for, you know, a couple minutes or something like that. It would be really helpful if while you're driving on FSD, you could just, you know, you're coming up to an intersection and you say, signal a left turn. That kind of tells the car, hey, I want to take a left turn at this intersection. And then it'll do so. Whether you have a navigation destination in the system and you kind of want to override what the system is trying to do, or if you don't have a destination in and you kind of just want to, like, you know, kind of point your car in the right direction, like, hey, take a left turn here, or hey, take a right turn here. I think that would be really, really useful. You know, sometimes, again, if you're doing something local, you don't always want to have to type in your destination on the screen or give a voice command. You just kind of want to get in the car and throw it in FSD and then maybe just tell the car where to go when you come to different turns and stuff like that. So anyway, I thought that might be a helpful feature that the Tesla team should be able to easily implement. Thanks for the podcast, and have a good day.
I love it, Eric. I would be thrilled to be able to have alternate routes for FSD in the navigation system. Heck, I would take your suggestion a step further and have programmable routes, meaning I put in a destination, I go the way I want to go, and have the car record that route, meaning when I select that destination again from the same origin point, i.e. my house, it'll offer me the choice right on the nav screen, as it already does. You know, it'll offer you multiple ways to go, and you just tap whichever one on the screen you want. It'll offer me the choice to go FSD's preferred way or my own custom way. In fact, this has actually been an issue for me recently, as lately, for some reason, it didn't used to do this before, the navigation system has been choosing to want to take the next exit up from the one that I usually take in order to get home from a certain direction that I go a lot, which I don't like. I don't want it to take that exit. I want it to take the one I want it to take. So, Eric, let's hope it happens. Thank you for your call. I've got time for one more call this week. It comes from Doug in Fort Worth, Texas.
Hey, Ryan, this is Doug from Fort Worth. I'm walking puppy dog Addie in a cool 92 degrees today. I'd like to take credit for two ideas that I brought forth on the podcast coming true. One is to change the options on the scroll wheel, the right scroll wheel, to control temperature or whatever. And then the next one was parental controls for kiddos that are learning to drive and being able to govern their driving a little bit. Looks like that's about to come out, so excited about that. So I have another idea for the engineers out there. If you're like me, one of the fun things or frustrating things about owning a Tesla is trying to use the brakes as little as possible. I think I find it to be a game with myself to see if I can time my foot coming off of the gas pedal or the power pedal, just so that I don't have to use the brake and I come to a perfect stop. I wonder if there's a possibility if they could provide some data, brake usage, percentage of brake usage versus percentage of regen braking. I don't know if there's any usefulness to it other than to let me know that I'm doing a good job, but that's my next idea. So I'm speaking that out into the podcast world for the engineers to hear and see if that one comes true also. Have a great day. Thanks.
Doug, thank you for your call. I have to say, I really like this idea. I think the Toyota Prius does something similar, although it's more of a general efficiency thing than it is specific to braking. But I agree with you that I think this could be a great way to encourage Tesla drivers to drive more efficiently, which of course would also spare their friction brakes more unnecessary wear and tear. Let's put this one out into the world and see if the right people at Tesla hear it. Cheers, Doug. Thank you for your call. Thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to call in and potentially be a part of the podcast. I will get to more of your phone calls on next week's podcast. But in the meantime, it is time to tell you about I guess I should just mention one more time. If you'd like to call in and potentially be part of the Ride the Lightning hotline, don't forget to call in anytime. I gave you the 2 call-in methods at the top of this segment. Okay, spirit of adventure time, what I'm up to with my car. Well, I'm just going to say it this way. I've got something big planned for this weekend that's car-related, and I'll tell you about it soon. I'm going to leave it at that. That is what's going on. How about an entertainment recommendation? It is a bit of a strange one in the sense that it's not your typical album or TV show or movie or video game, but instead a documentary on YouTube is what I'm going to recommend to you. And it's called War Game: The Making of Stalker 2. Now, if you are a gamer out there, you're probably familiar with Stalker, the Stalker first-person shooter series. It's a sci-fi action game. The sequel, Stalker 2, is coming out after a very, very long road of development. And that is, in fact, what this documentary is about. It is a really, truly fantastic and heartwarming story about a group of video game developers in Ukraine who are making this game, Stalker 2, which is itself a follow-up to a very beloved game, particularly in Ukraine. So it's a chunk of it's about their own country, Stalker, and this documentary goes into how their country was invaded in the middle of that game-making process. And the documentary isn't really too much about the game. It's very much more about the people, and I found it to be a really compelling human interest piece that just happens to revolve around the making of a video game. So if you'd like to check that out, you can find it on the Xbox YouTube channel, the official, just youtube.com/Xbox, if you'd like to watch it. And the game itself, by the way, Stalker 2, is out this week. It's on the 21st. So if you're curious to see how it turns out, you can look for a review on, I might as well plug my day job here, IGN.com. I'm not doing the review, but we will have the review for you this week. So do check that out if it's of interest. Time for your Tesla Pro Tip of the Week, and it comes from Hamilton in Delaware.
Hey Ryan, this is Hamilton from Delaware. Got a pro tip that involves the app. If you press and hold those 4 icons when the app first opens up, and then it gives you the option to customize by dragging, you can get a 5th one by dragging one of the icons in the bottom over all the way to the right. It took me a couple minutes to get the spot. It has to be just right all the way over to the edge of the screen. but eventually a little spot will open up, and then you can get 5 icons in there. So I found that helpful and hope it helps someone else. See ya.
Thank you, Hamilton. I have heard this unofficial hack before, which clearly Tesla has not fixed because really, why would they? It's a great pro tip, Hamilton. Thank you very much. It's a particularly useful one for, I think, a lot of folks out there because really, who wouldn't want more shortcuts at your immediate disposal? Now, that being said, apparently for you iPhone users, iOS 18 bakes some of this into the into the OS layer of your iPhone too, although I haven't actually played around with it on my own iPhone because I still need to pull the trigger on that iOS update. I always like to wait for the 0.1 version of any major new iOS revision just to let them smooth out any kinks and, well, more importantly, security vulnerabilities. I mean, I know Apple does public betas that already help get ahead of this, but still. And actually, I think now that I think about it, I think 0.1 might already be out. So maybe I'll just update my phone tonight after I finish the podcast and go to bed. Anyway, great pro tip here, Hamilton. Thank you again for calling in. And if anybody else out there has a good Tesla pro tip of the week, I could always use more good ones. So please feel free to send it my way, and you can submit those the same way that you send in the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls, which I told you about a few minutes ago at the top of the Ride the Lightning hotline segment. As always, at this part of the podcast, I want to mention a few vendors out in the Tesla space that can hopefully be of use to you at some point in time. Maybe that's this week, maybe it's down the road, whatever the case may be. But I will start with AbstractOcean.com. They make a million different great aftermarket Tesla accessories, including the 4th generation tempered glass screen protector that uses Gorilla Glass, the drop-in cup holder stabilizers, which are great, the rear footwell lighting kits, which I think are particularly great for the Model Y, although honestly, I think Cybertruck, now that I think about it, would be a good use case for those as well. But so many great products, a lot of them lighting related, both interior and exterior lighting, but lots of great stuff. My advice is to just take a look sometime when you get a chance. Maybe it's even right now, you just pause the podcast and go, okay, you know what, Ryan's mentioned Abstract Ocean 100 times. Let me go take a look at it, see what they got, see if there's anything that I like, and then if there is anything you like, add it to your shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That code again is RTLPodcast, all one word, no spaces on that one at abstractocean.com. Over at everyamp.com/RTL, they offer the Snap Plate and the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus. This is the front license plate bracket that I recommend rather than the one that Tesla gives you, because the Snap Plate will, as the name suggests, snap on and off in seconds, but when it's on there nice and secure, but when it's off, it leaves no unsightly hardware behind. So make those fix-it tickets go away for those of you who, like me, hate having to use a front license plate, but you want to maybe put one on when you need to, when you're going to be in town, maybe at a parking meter, going over a bridge or through a toll road or something where you know you're going to need that front plate. But if you're going to, say, Cars and Coffee or some car show, or you're just detailing your car and you want to take it off, you can absolutely remove the Snap Plate or Snap Plate Plus pretty easily. So the difference between the two, the Snap Plate is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario like a parking accident or a car wash, while the Snap Plate Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength. Both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. Get yours at everyamp.com/RTL and get a discount using the coupon code RTL as well. If you are in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, you're going to want to make an appointment at Immaculate Reflections. What an awesome detailer. Jeff McGovern is the name of the master detailer, the shop owner there. Go see Jeff, bring your car over, whether it's your Tesla or something else in your garage that you super care about. And I promise you, when you go to pick it up after Jeff's done with it, you are going to be on cloud nine. You're going to have a giant smile on your face. Your car will have never looked better. Maybe you're going to do paint correction to actually get that paint finish looking as good as it possibly can, as good as it ever has. Maybe you want to do paint protection film on the front of the car or all the key areas or even the entire car. And or maybe you want to do ceramic coating because waxing twice a year is annoying. Ceramic coating lasts 3 to 5 years or more. I'm on the or more portion of that spectrum. So I'm a big fan of what Jeff does at Immaculate Reflections and how he does it with the utmost care and professionalism. So look him up. The website is irdetailing.com. And you can reach out through the website. You'll see a contact form there. And when you do contact Immaculate Reflections, mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any work that you do book in, you will receive the Ride the Lightning listener discount. Finally, the Patreon. I mentioned it a little earlier, well, a lot earlier in the podcast, so I'll just mention it here one more time because it has been a while. That was well over an hour ago. But the Patreon is the way to support the podcast if you see it in your heart to do that. Now, this podcast is free, has always been free, and will always be free because, well, most podcasts on the internet are free, and that's okay. That's how it works. But if you do get a lot out of this podcast, and I hope you do, I hope you enjoy it week in and week out, and you see fit to support me on Patreon, I would be humbled and grateful if you would consider a pledge. As I mentioned earlier in the show, all the tiers now, no matter what tier you support at, you get an ad-free version of the episode that's exclusive to Patreon, and you get early access to each week's episode as well. And then if you go to some of the higher tiers, that's when you get some of the other perks that stack up as you go. So the higher you go, the more perks you get. The most popular tier, again, is that $10 per month tier, which is what? That's like, at the way inflation's going, what is that, like a large coffee at Starbucks at this point is $10. I don't know, actually. I've never been a coffee drinker, so please don't take my word for that. But anyway, $10 a month if you do want to step up to that tier will get you the early access, the ad-free episodes, and those weekly lightning round mini episodes that I do exclusively for Patreon. There are now 121 of those to dig into anytime you join the Patreon. So again, that website is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. You can follow or subscribe to this podcast, totally free either way. Just depends on what your favorite podcast service calls it. I think most of them, it's follow now instead of subscribe. But anyway, follow or subscribe on all the major podcast services. That way, you will be automatically notified whenever each new episode drops, which of course is every Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, etc. And the way to find it is to go on there and search Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast. Just put all that in there. You'll only have to do it once because then you'll see this podcast pull right up. Click that follow button and you're good to go. And social media, yes, you can follow me on X and or on Instagram, either or both if you wish. My username is DMC_Ryan on both of those. You can email me about Tesla stuff anytime. My podcast email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. And before I go, I want to say hello and thank you to the Maximum Plaid backers and the Plaid level that are grandfathered in, and the Roadster in Space tier backers as well. Big thanks goes out to, starting with the Maximum Plaid backers, the newest one, Clayton Goodfellow. Clayton, thank you so much for upgrading your pledge all the way up to the Maximum Plaid tier. Looking forward to seeing you on the next monthly Zoom Hangout, which those happen usually the first Saturday of every month for everybody at the Maximum Plaid tier or higher. So thank you to Clayton, and welcome to the Maximum Plaid tier. Thank you as well to Jonathan Wales Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez. By the way, Will, I hope you're enjoying that Cybertruck. I'm eager to hear about it. Will always shows up to the monthly Zoom Hangouts, and his Cybertruck delivery, he's in Canada, so he's been waiting and waiting and waiting, was right after our last monthly Hangout. So, Will, looking forward to hearing from you and that Cybertruck on the next Hangout. Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, and Jerry Slinger. Next up, a huge thanks to the Roadster in Space tier backers. They are Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, and Michael Gallo. And finally, a thanks goes out to the grandfathered in Plaid level supporters who continue to pledge and support the podcast at this otherwise discontinued tier. Your continued support is very much appreciated. George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk, in quotes, Peter, and finally, the Bear Boys of Colorado. And with that, I come to the end of Ride the Lightning episode 485. Creeping up on 500. It is not too far away. I think I want to say it's going to be in March if everything hopefully stays on schedule. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Hopefully I'm able to just keep going every single week as I've been fortunate to be able to do for the past 9+ years. But yeah, 500 is not too far away. But in the meantime, we've still got an exciting finish to Q4 ahead of us. So I hope all of you are doing well. I say happy electric motoring to all of you, and I will see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.